Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this live testing seminar across many different countries in Asia. We really appreciate your time. I am Sergio Fuster, and I'm the CEO of Raventós Codorníu, and I have the pleasure to be joined today by Maite Calvo de la Banda, who's the Chief Winemaker and Technical Director of Bodegas Bilbaínas, and Diego Pinilla, who's the Chief Winemaker for the total group Raventós Codorníu and our Head of Operations as well. We have a very exciting tasting session with us, and I really hope you enjoy it. Today is a very special day for us as we celebrate our 120th anniversary in Bodegas Bilbaínas. So we are streaming today from the Jaraiz cellar. That's a very iconic place. It used to be originally the grape reception room at the winery, and today is the place where many of our premium wines are set for aging. But before we talk more about Bodegas Bilbaínas and tasting the wines, we have a short video that gives you a little bit of history about our winery.
Tradition, commitment, respect for the land. These are the values of Bodegas Bilbaínas today, and they were also its values in 1901 when we opened our winery. A lot has happened in the past 120 years. We have learned, and we have grown. We have found a way to go further and further. We have met extraordinary people. We have seen the world change, and we have known how to adapt to the changes. We have managed to maintain our essence, yet kept up with the latest changes. And we have become what we are today. The oldest bottling firm in Rioja, with the largest surface area of underground cellars in the land, and the largest expanse of estate-owned vineyards in town. An unquestionable benchmark for Rioja wine. A lot has happened in the past 120 years, but we have kept our values present throughout. They are upheld by the people who work with us every day. They can be appreciated in every glass by the people who choose our wines. Thank you for all these 120 years of success. The journey continues.
So as you see, exciting story, but everything started in 1859 when the powdery mildew crisis in France forced some of the French businessmen to start a business in Spain, in the north of Spain, to export wine into France. But really, our history began in 1901 when Mr. Ugarte, a local businessman, bought the Sauvignon Frères winery that the French had started and gave birth to what we know today as Bodegas Bilbaínas. A few years later, in 1908, it was the launch of our first bottle of Viña Pomal, probably our most iconic wine from Bodegas Bilbaínas, and I'm assuming a wine that you know very well, and we'll get to have some great tastings of this wine later today. And we are the oldest, we are proud to be the oldest bottling firm in La Rioja. We're located at the heart of Haro, that's considered the capital of Rioja, and we're also the number 10th. We hold the number 10th bottling registry for total wine in Spain. So as you see, very rich history, a very strong legacy. And Diego, why don't you tell us more about our vineyards?
Well, thanks, Sergio, and welcome everyone from the other side of the camera. Yes, we are in one of the most iconic places here in Rioja, in Bodegas Bilbaínas. And just as an introduction, as you know, Rioja is like a big valley in the middle, well, in northern Spain. There are two mountains ranges, one on the north part, one on the south part, and in the middle we have the river Ebro crossing the whole Rioja from north to south. We are in the most northern area, I could say, where we have more influence of the Atlantic Ocean, because the ocean is just close to 80, 90 kilometers from here north. So a cold area, but at the same time we have the influence of the Mediterranean coming from the east. And we have a cross of climates in Rioja where even if we are in a, I would say, cold area, we are able to grow superb red wines. And especially where we are, in Aro, that probably if we have to choose one town to represent Rioja outside, Aro is the place to be. We are in a neighborhood of wineries. We are over 7 wineries, centurial wineries all together, just 2 minutes walking one to the other. And this make really a unique place to be. As you see in the map, we own a large vineyards just surrounding the winery. And in fact, we are the largest owner in vineyards in Aro. The main estates that we have surrounding the winery, we have one is called Viña Zaco. Zaco is 14 hectares. It's one of the oldest vineyards, very alluvional soils, so very deep, very stony. And here is where Tempranillo probably have the richest expression, having wines that are really powerful and that probably Maite is going to show some nice examples later. This is a very special vineyard for us, and probably where the top Tempranillos for Gran Reserva, Vicalanda come also from this estate. We also have Paceta. Paceta is a 47 hectares, so the largest, well, not the largest, but one of the largest ones. And this is really touching the mountain, the northern mountain. It's really at the very limit north of Rioja, really the river entry through the mountain, very close to Paceta. And Paceta is a more gravelous soil, fresher soils. And here is where we really focus on the white wines. So we have Maturana Blanca, Viura, Malvasia that we use to make some of our whites and our sparkling. We also produce a sparkling wine here in Bilbaínas. But also we have a very nice, fresher expression of the Tempranillo. The next estate is also on a slope, is Vicuana. It's a 12 hectares vineyard. This is a very loamy clay soils. I could say this is kind of a little bit warmer, even if they are very close. And this is why we have here not only Tempranillo, we also have Graciano, and in fact soon a little bit of Garnacha that we are recovering in this vineyard. And this is because these 2 long cycle varieties, like Graciano and Garnacha, we believe are very helpful for the challenge of climate change a little bit, where these varieties will support Tempranillo with a little bit more acidity and freshness. And this is why this vineyard is very important for some of our blends. And to finish, this is the main estate. The estate, in fact, where the winery is based is Viña Pomal, where we have Cuervo and Cores. This is over 69 hectares. This is really in the middle of the wineries, just surrounding the winery. And this is a very limestone soil. And limestone is very important for Tempranillo. Tempranillo really is a variety that needs to suffer. And limestone really make the vigor to be very, very low. And there is where Tempranillo expresses its best, showing a very nice balance, very nice acidity also, that is very important for our aging wines. And this is a very special vineyard surrounding the winery and really making the style of Viña Pomal. In fact, as I was saying, this we are in an impressive building. This was built starting in the 1850s, but the main building is from 1901 to 1904, where we have superb underground caves. and really all surrounded of stones, and really a place to visit when you have the opportunity. And also a very impressive estate, because this is a very unique in Rioja. Usually the wineries used to be more negociant, buying grapes, buying wine, and blending and aging in the winery. The uniqueness of this centurial estate is that we own the vineyards since the very start. So all our estates are part of the winery the last 120 years. And now that it's important to make much more focused vineyard wines, I believe this is a good example of a winery making vineyard wines in the last 100 years. So for the good things, mainly our wines has been reflecting the terroir of Faro in the last 120 years. And this comes to, well, it's not by casual that we have over 70 gold medals and above 90 points ratings in the last 2 years. So most of our wines have really nice punctuations, really appreciated by the wine critics. And we believe we are right now in a very special moment with very nice quality to take it to the market. We are also present in above 41 Michelin star restaurants, mainly in Spain for sure, but also outside of Spain. And this is some of our ranges, focused very much in these iconic restaurants and giving wines that are a little bit more limited editions and a little bit more special wines. In the winery, Bodegas Bilbaínas, we are able to produce different wines. The main styles that we do is Ederra, that I will say is our everyday wine, Rioja wine, so a very classical range, having fruit for all around Rioja, and making wines that are very easy drinking in mainly Crianza and Reserva. To give you an idea, this wine, Ederra means nice in Basque language, but this wine used to be the home wine at the royal house at the early 20th century with Alfonso XIII, where the winery was chosen to be provider of the Spanish royal house. After we do Viña Pomal. Viña Pomal is probably the best example of what Rioja is, making white, rosé, but also a Crianza, Reserva, and Gran Reserva, and also some limited editions that are really showing what is the best of Rioja, especially of Rioja Alta, and especially of our vineyards here in Haro. I think this reflects the good traditional wines, respecting the legacy of the region, but also a very nice, balanced, clean wine that we've been working very hard the last years to make this Viña Pomal a very powerful wine and, well, and very a nice reflection of what is the best of Rioja. And after, we have La Vicalanda. La Vicalanda was born in the 90s. In the 90s, this is a little bit the innovation we did, focusing in some more modern wines, focusing in Tempranillo, focusing in barrels, French oak, compared to Viña Pomal. The tradition is always aging with American oak. But La Vicalanda is our most innovative brand, and I think Maite has some surprises here to show you next during the tasting. So
this is my time. Yeah?
Sergio, finish with a short.
Yes, thank you, Diego. As you see, a very unique place, probably the most iconic winery in Rioja, in Spain, and we'd like to extend an invitation for all of you to come and visit. What you see in the slide right now is the manifestation of the strong partnership that we have with all of you. So we really thank you for the partnership and are looking forward to continuous growth. Growth is very much in our heart right now. We're in a super accelerated growth mode, and this is demonstrated by the market shares that you see on the screen. This is our share for aging wines, where we hold near 11% of volume share in total Asia. And you've seen there some examples, either in Singapore, Japan, Malaysia, China. You see double-digit shares everywhere. This also holds true when we divide into Crianza, Reserva, or Gran Reserva. And again, if you want to take a look, I'm pretty sure you see some of your countries represented, but with our portfolio of Ederra, Pomal, and Vicalanda, we hold from high single digits share to close to 50% share in Singapore. So we're really proud of being one of the leading wineries in Asia and really continue to do so. So this is like this for Crianza. Then you see the same basically for Reserva with very strong presence in Singapore, China, Malaysia, and Philippines again. So we are in expansion mode, and again, wanted to thank you for the business and look forward to more opportunities. But I think now it's the exciting time to do some tasting. So Maite, what do we have today in the menu?
Okay, so I have some news at first. After we have done this walk around the legacy, the history, and a short walk around the vineyards and virtual scene, but now it's time to enjoy our wines. And I'm very happy because the first one is an innovation that I have included in the brand of La Vicalanda, because I've thought that 30 years after the first La Vicalanda Reserva goes to the market is the perfect time to complete this brand with a top quality white wine. And this is why we have here in our glasses the first wine that is called La Vicalanda White, Vicalanda Blanco. Well, we have used only Tempranillo white for making this wine. It's 100% Tempranillo white. We have harvested this Tempranillo white coming from our, as we call, Viña Pomal estate, but it really is Cores Cuervo vineyard. It's there where we have our Tempranillo Blanco. We elaborate this Tempranillo Blanco in our most special cellar inside the Bodegas Bilbaínas cellars. It's our new cellar that we call Santiago Ugarte cellar. And it's a very special place because there we have different tanks with different materials. We work with concrete, we work with wooden tanks and open lakes. So this is the place where we can develop the most premium wines in all our winery. And this is the first result of all this work that we have done since 19, because the vintage is 2019. So what we try to show with this wine, the best quality that our Tempranillo white could give to us after a very careful process of elaboration and aging. So at first, we pick up the grapes very early in the morning in small boxes, manual harvest, and we go directly to the press. We press the whole bunches in a vertical press. We made a static settling, and after that, we extract just the cleanest, as clean as possible, and put in a wooden tank made with French oak for make the fermentation. The fermentation takes place during around 1 month because we try to do at very low temperature, between 12 and 14 degrees, and just to get this open wide range of aromas in the final wine that we can appreciate now. After the alcoholic fermentation, what we do is put it in oak barrels, 225 liters, French oak, just for making the final step of the aging. And then, well, we have the final result here. We put in bottle, and we can enjoy it. So I think the most surprising characteristic of this white wine is, in one hand, the open wide range of aromas that we can note in the glasses. No? It has some apricot, some honey, some reflects of the wooden aging also. But on the other hand, you have in your mouth a very freshness and a long elegance and persistence on the aftertaste. So I don't know what you think about it, because it's a new also for you. It's the first time they tasted this wine.
I think it's a great example of what white Riojas can make today. This is a Reserva, so it's still aging in oak, and I think it's really balanced. The integration of the oak in the wine is nearly perfect, I could say. And I believe it's good you also explain to the people why Tempranillo Blanco. So why Tempranillo? Because you have also good experience with white Garnacha, Ambiura, Malvasia. So maybe it's interesting for some of the people to understand why we choose white Tempranillo for this wine.
Well, I think the aim of the La Vicalanda is to get the best expression of the Tempranillo in all the whole range. So in this way, we've already had a Reserva and a Grand Reserva. I thought that the white inside this brand must be Tempranillo also, and luckily we have Tempranillo white, so it's the perfect grade for making this. And on the other hand, our Tempranillo white has a characteristic that help us to age in barrel with a high quality potential of aging, no? Because of this freshness that we can note now after more or less a year in barrel. So in one hand is because I think all the Vicalanda brand is a perfect reflection of the Tempranillo in Rioja in both colors, reds and whites. And on the other hand, because of our Tempranillo white has this particularity of freshness and acidity that help us to make aging white wines.
I believe white Tempranillo is really needing. We could think Tempranillo, like Tempranillo is planted, red Tempranillo is planted everywhere. White Tempranillo, I think, really is showing better in colder climate, in colder expression.
Totally agree with you. But again, because it has the freshness, so the ripeness cycle is a little bit longer here in Aro than in other parts of Rioja. And we get lower degrees in alcohol, in terms of alcohol, and that gives us at the final wine a great balance between alcohol and acidity. So this helps us to do this wine. And well, on the other hand, Tempranillo white, always people say that it's a variety, it's not too much expressive on the nose. But I think the key is to work with cold fermentations and work with very, very carefully and as long as possible fermentation in the appropriate tank. So in our cases, in a wooden tank. Because this helps the variety have time enough to develop all these aromas and nuances that the variety has inside.
Okay.
Okay, so after the newborn, we are going with the Vicalanda Reserva. So it's the same brand. Vicalanda reflects, as Diego has told you before, the innovation, the first step on innovation inside the Bodegas Bilbaínas wines brand. It was the first high expression wine in Rioja, because here we're looking for a more extraction in the final wine. We're looking for a more dark fruit in the spite of red fruit or like the rest of the Tempranillo. And on the other hand, we work with French oak, because all this concentration, all this high structure that we have here in this wine needs to age in French oak just to help the balsamic that gives the French oak barrel to this structure to develop a wide range of aromas, no? A different profile of aromas. So at the final wine, what we find in the glass is that we have some reflex of the fruit coming from the vintage, and on the second row we can find these toasted aromas, smoky, that give us the French barrel. The grapes, we work with only Tempranillos, 100% Tempranillo, but we made a selection of our best old vines of Tempranillo coming from our Zaco, Bicuana, and Cuervo estates. And after making this selection, we designed the final wine.
I think in La Vicalanda is very important the aging, and I always find a very more like a balsamic touches in the Reserva and the Grand Reserve, coming probably for the aging in French oak. But what is very important is that the oak is just an instrument to develop a better wine, and really the French oak need this exchange of oxygen. This one are more powerful, so it's important. French oak also help for the ripening and really rounding the wine. And I think Vicalanda now 15 is really showing a nice velvety tannins. Really good.
At the end, I think this wine is the perfect example of what minerality is in the wine. No? So you have this final sensation on the mouth. It's this minerality that gives you a very elegant persistence on the final aftertaste. Okay, so we're on to the next one. Viña Pomal Reserva. So, as you have seen on the story of the Bilbaínas, of Bodegas Bilbaínas started with Viña Pomal. Viña Pomal is more than a brand here. I think it's the soul of the Bodegas Bilbaínas. It's the perfect classic Rioja style that we are proud to year after year be able to make it with this faithful classic style that everyone can recognize in all over the world. And here we're working in another line. It's also Tempranillo, as the La Vicalanda, but it's another way to work with the Tempranillo, because here we are looking for more a red fruity Tempranillo. So for this reason, we choose at first the vineyard. We work with the vineyard coming from Cuervo Cores. This is our main stage for making this wine. Here, what we have is a more red fruity, more sensation of volume due to this particular characteristic of the soils that we have told us before. And a very good freshness at the end. So elegance, freshness, red fruity, and all this combined perfectly with the American oak, because the American oak gives us this vanilla and this some bakery notes that helps to this all red fruity notes to be bigger at the final wine.
I think American oak also gives an extra structure, because Tempranillo sometimes is lighter in this style, but is a little bit more, giving some extra weight to the wine. I think this is a very nice example of why choosing American oak for one and why using French oak for the other.
Okay.
Sergio, what do you think? You prefer, because here with La Vicalanda and Viña Pomal, we always have different people that prefers one style. Which one do you prefer?
Difficult to choose, but I would say I will go more with the red fruits, sweet spices,
So more Viña Pomal?
Yeah.
More classical?
There are two families here, Pomalized and Vicalanda.
Vicalanda yes.
Call me classic.
Call me classic. I really love Vicalanda, my side. I think the way it's showing. Maite, we will not make you choose between your two sons. But there is always people that prefer one or the other. I think both styles are very fitting what actual Rioja can be. A very much more a classical style, but also a rich, powerful wine. And both are reservas from the 15. So it's really interesting to see the differences.
Yeah, two differences, same vintage, same grape, it's Tempranillo, both, but you can compare two lines of making different elaborations inside the same winery. Well, and after the Reserva, we go with the Grand Reserva. The Grand Reserva, for me, probably is one of my best wines, because Grand Reserva is the best expression of the red wines here in our house, no, in the winery. And it's due because you only could do this wine in excellent vintage. You need the perfect condition on the vintage to do this wine. So this is the vintage 2014. So I think it's coming soon to the market. I think this 2014 has a very long aging potential in bottle, so it's very young now, but I think it will go and develop another profile of aromas more interesting in 5 years, probably. And here we use Graciano. So it's not only Tempranillo, we need a little bit of Graciano just for giving to the Tempranillo this longest aging potential at the final wine. What we do with this one is to ferment it separately, one variety from the other. We make different agents at the first year, and after that, we blend it, and we clarify and blending, and after the second year, we put in bottle. No? So, as you probably know, a Grand Reserva is a wine that is minimum 5 years old, and in this particular case, it's a little bit longer. So. And again, what we try to express at the final wine is the potential of the harvest. So we work very hard during the harvest with a long time, investing a lot of time during the fermentation and all this process before the barrel aging to preserve all this extract, all this profile, all these aromas that we can extract during the harvest. So our aim at the final wine is that we can find this profile that we are working before in the harvest, after the aging. So again, the barrel has a second role in this wine. So you have profiles that's coming from more matured grapes, but on the second roll, you have the smoky and toasted notes coming from the barrel.
It's impressive, a Grand Reserva, 2 years in the barrel, and the wine is still showing a lot of fruit.
Yeah.
And also, Grand Reserva, as you know, is 2 years in barrel, 3 years minimum in bottle. But this one has been more than 3 years already, and it's impressive to see the freshness. And 14 was, you were saying only the best vintages. 14, I remember, was a very difficult vintage. Really what could be more similar to old times. This was a very cold. And I think here we see a nice expression of the potential of Tempranillo and Graciano together to make a beautiful wine that can age for, I don't know, how much more time you think?
20 years, yeah, forever. But I think for us here in our area, cool vintages for making this wine is perfect because the great balance that the Tempranillo reached in this vintage is perfect for aging. So normally the cool vintages are where we found the best Grand Reserva wines.
It's really nice to see how important is the acidity for us here. Huh?
Yeah, because we can notice very vibrant and the acidity is very powerful at the final wine still now. Okay, so we're now with another best example of what the harvested 2015 give to us is the Graciano. We have tasted before the Grand Reserva, and we can note here how work together Tempranillo with Graciano. So now we have the opportunity to taste 100% Graciano. And this way, I think you can imagine what, which are the characteristics that this Graciano gives to the Tempranillo to help him to make a long aging in a barrel. So Graciano is coming from our Bicuana state, from our Bicuana vineyard. Bicuana will be in the next 2 years our second singular vineyard because it is now, I think, 33 years old. And we use our Graciano old vines for making this wine. So we made a strict selection of these Graciano grapes. We harvest by hand all the Graciano grapes coming into the winery in small boxes, no more than 15 kilos. We put in a cool area for 24 hours, and after that we pass through a sorting handy table just to refuse all the branches that are not in not good conditions. And after that, what we do is put in a wooden tank or in a concrete tank. It depends on the year. And after the alcoholic fermentation, we make a very, very long after post-maceration. And finally, we put in a foudre. Foudre is a big barrel. It's around 1,200 liters, French oak, for at least minimum 1 year. And after that, we put in bottle. So again, we use here French oak for making this wine. It's for this reason that you can note more balsamic notes than the red fruit can give us with this variety. On the other hand, it's very powerful in the mouth. It has a freshness and acidity, very powerful in the mouth. It's a wine that is still alive, but I think in 10 years more will be better than now. So that gives us an idea how long is the aging potential for this variety, no? And probably this is a reason why all our previous winemakers use this variety in the blends for making their Grand Reservas in Rioja.
For me, it's amazing the varietal character of Graciano in this wine. That is the white pepper. Mm-hmm. That is funny to see because Tempranillo, when you taste the grapes, doesn't have that typicity so easy to find. But when you taste the Graciano grape in the vineyard and you taste this wine, you really find exactly the same fruit expression, mm-hmm. The white peppery, that is very, very typical. It's a beautiful wine. Mm-hmm.
With Graciano, we have both sides. No? We have wine lovers and wine haters because it's a very difficult variety to understand. And it's people. You can find people that love this profile of strident acidity in the mouth and the structure and some green nuances, no? Fighting the balance between the alcohol, no?
It's really a variety that needs the top vintages or warmer vintages to really finish the ripening, mm-hmm. because if not, it's too hard. So maybe sometimes. Yeah. But I think it's very good. This is a very limited edition. Maybe we should share that.
Yes. So yes, because we made a very strict selection of the grapes. We got no more than 1,500 bottles.
Yeah, in fact, only Viña Pomar Reserva and Vicalanda Reserva usually is made every year, but all the other wines. All the
special wines are only in the best vintages. Mm-hmm. That's right. So, finally.
It's a surprise.
Okay, because we are on a celebration, we cannot end this celebration without fireworks. So this is the reason why I have created this new wine. It's fireworks in a glass, no? What we try to transmit in this wine is the perfect reflection of all the best varieties, the best red varieties in Rioja can give us to us as a mix, as a blend, no? Working together. So we have chosen the 4 best reds, as I said, Tempranillo, Garnacha, Graciano, and Maturana red. We have fermented separately, one from the other, with different baths for the alcoholic fermentation, with different process for the malolactic fermentation, and especially different aging process for each variety. So I said we made the shoot perfectly for each one. And after that, we put it together and we find this explosive, very, I think, a very surprising wine because there's an explosion of red fruity, but a lot of nuances because it has floral coming from the Grenache. You have acidity given by the Graciano. You have this velvet and volume sensation given by the Maturana red, and all together made this special and very unique wine. And this is, I tried also to reflect that it's the best example of the legacy of Rioja, because Rioja is not a monovarietal wine since the first beginning. Rioja was a blend. So with this wine, we come again and go to our first winemakers do in the vineyard. Mm-hmm.
Lots of dark fruit, no?
Yeah.
Maybe the most complex one so far.
That's right. I think it's the wine that to talk about because every people knows different things because it has so different nuances in different profiles, since the flowers to the oaky, toasted, and fruity, and very great. So you can find a lot of things, and when you give it some more air, a little bit more air, you can develop all these nuances. No?
In fact, for me, it started with some spiciness, remembering Maturana Tinta
Yeah.
or Garcia. But after, I agree, the dark fruit comes really to be more floral. It's a really balanced wine, and very different also to the others. Huh? I think it's
Yes, yes, I think
kind
it's
of
an inflection point now.
fruitier
with this,
style,
yeah.
more expressive. It's beautiful.
As the calendar started in the 19th, I think the 120th century, the anniversary, is the perfect moment for starting with a new line of most powerful and special wines.
And when will be launched? This is going to be launched.
We launched I think in December, more or less, between December and first early January. We hope so.
So this is really a premiere, huh?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so the very first to taste it.
As well as the Tempranillo White. They are the two premiere shows here and the first tasting
For
session
our friends in
these
Asia,
wines,
all of this, huh?
Yeah.
So I think we have now some time for the questions. I have here this, and I will pass any company. For sure, we are happy to answer any question about company, technical, other wineries, technical reasons, anything that you want to ask. And I think here we already have one. I don't know who is saying this because I don't have the name, but says, love the surprise of La Vicalanda White. Are you planning to launch more white wines? They are interested in a region known for the red wine.
Well, as I told you, Bilbaínas is not only red, so the tradition of the winery started with the reds, but nowadays it's not only red, it's also white. We are working in top high quality white wines. We started some years ago with the singular wines, with the Maturana Blanca and the first beginning of the Tempranillo Blanco also. In the vintage 2019, we joined the white Grenache, so we have another white in the winery. On the other hand, we have the most popular one in Viña Pomal, our oak fermented white Viña Pomal. And in the next future, we are working in a Grand Reserva white inside the brand of Viña Pomal, but it will come in the future.
Okay. Well, I think La Vicalanda White, just to add, I think this make something really to make a Reserva a little bit wider. And I see a lot of people excited in Rioja about white wines now.
Yeah.
Especially with white Maturana, rediscovering white Garnacha. So people is just thinking Rioja.
Discovering the whites in Rioja.
Yeah, whites in Rioja,
right.
that is the next big thing. And it's true that the white wines in Rioja are really a style that in Spain Spain usually made white wines that are to be drink younger. And I think Rioja is really exploring these white wines that can be aged for longer time and much more gastronomical. And I believe this is
I think it has
a new opportunity for Spanish white wines.
A big potential inside the customers, because I think white Riojas here are very relaxed whites. It's not too much perfume on aromas, no? It's not too much persistent at the first beginning, but are white wines very gastronomic. So I think whites for us here in Bilbaínas are the perfect combination in a food pairing, because it gives you the freshness, the acidity, the nuance and the profile that develop in the glasses, but slow, and it's very interesting range of wines.
Question for you also, Maite, and I know you finished harvest this week.
This week, yeah.
So how was harvest? They are asking how was harvest.
Well, it was a fantastic harvest here, especially here in Rioja Alta, because the month of October, the climate condition and the weather condition were perfect. So we have very sunny days with high temperatures during the day, but on the night we have the decrease of the temperature below 10 degrees. So this contract helps us to get the right rainless cycle just to the end. And with no rain, so this helps us to the healthy on the vineyards. And what we found at our first wine that we are making now is that we have a very high extraction of polyphenol contents that give us the structure and the aging potential in the future. A very, very good balance between alcohol and fruity, because we have really good alcohol degree in the final wines. So they are not lightly wines. They are powerful wines, but with a great acidity. And I think it's a perfect year for making Grand Reservas.
Cool. Another question, all for you, Maite. I believe there is Viña Pomal Terruño Centenario. So what is the difference with the actual Viña Pomal?
Okay, so as I've told you, we make with our vineyards, we make the fermentation all separately. All the vineyards are making the alcoholic fermentation at the first step separately, one from the other. After that, what we find is different wines, and we put in barrel in different batches of wines, no? Just to be faithful with this origin. And after the aging, we make the tasting of all the range, all the vintage, and we decide which one goes to each wine. So for the Terruño Centenario, we choose only the oldest vines inside our vineyards. For making this is a limited collection because we have less volume than the normal Viña Pomal. So if you taste both together, you can find more structure and more concentration on the Terruño Centenario red wine than in the Viña Pomal red level, no? Normal range. For the Viña Pomal Reserva, for the normal Viña Pomal Reserva, what we are looking for is more red fruity, more rounded wine, and not too much structure. So this could be fine. This we reach because we choose youngest vines. Youngest, I mean, between 25 and 30 years, not too much, too young. And give us this gives us this profile of red fruity. We are looking on the normal range.
Okay. Are you going to create more La Vicalanda wines?
More La Vicalanda wines. Well, probably it's the rosé, the next one, but I don't know. Would be possible to make a rosé with the Tempranillo.
Okay, 2 questions about the 120th limited edition. What is the production? And Vatsasa asked, how many years do you usually keep it until release?
Well, for release, I think it's ready to release. So this is my aim when I create this wine, to do it and make it really to release, but with a great potential of aging if you want to keep in bottle. But it's ready to release just since the first beginning that we launched to the market. And on the other hand, well, I forgot.
The number of bottles.
Number of bottles is 20,000 bottles of this wine.
20,000 bottles. So we answered this was coming twice. A question from Valeria. Why should we choose your winery wines? Please, in 3 sentences.
Well, because we have an unique and classic style, very recognizable in all over the world.
1.
Because we are the winery that is probably a medium size of winery, but that has the ability to create different range, big volume and small volume. So we have the ability to perform different volumes of wines. And because here in our winery, you could find the best expression of the indigenous Riojan varieties than in all the rest of the wineries.
fourth one is we have a beautiful winery surrounded with vineyards.
Yeah.
Okay. This may be for Sergio. What do you think the challenges and chances of Rioja, and after how the global warming influenced Rioja industry?
Rioja is still a growing appellation worldwide. So we see very strong potential with very strong rebound post-COVID. Actually, I think somehow people are betting yet again on the classics, despite Rioja being one of the biggest Spanish appellation, but yet with very strong potential for the future. So it will be for sure a clear bet for you across the Asian region, and there's a lot of growth to come. Global warming, for sure, it will impact, but I think the team here, represented by you, and some others in the viticulture, are betting more and more to plant in different, or to select different vineyards more and more in the future, maybe playing with different altitudes, just to counterbalance the climate effect, and then mixing it with different care and harvest techniques in a way that we can, just like the rest of the world, offset this thing for the next 20, 30, 50 years. But we're pretty sure that Rioja will still be a very safe bet and potentially the best representation of Spanish wines for the decades to come.
Yeah. I think for the global warming, I think we just presented last week our plan of sustainability for the whole company, and Bodegas Bilbaínas in this aspect is inside this bet for producing much more organic. In Codorníu, Raimat, we were talking this is 100%. Rioja has a little bit more complexity to make organic, but we still have probably already 30-40% of our vines already transforming into organic. We just replanting some garnacha in some of the old vineyards where it disappeared. And the biodiversity also, we just plant like a garden of different
flowers with different seeds in one of our vineyards, just to preserve the natural fauna, talking about the insects and that this is fight perfectly against the molds and the other pests.
And I think Maite with the viticulture team, they are now planting and selecting from all vineyards, not only from the winery, also from providers, the best massal selection, we call, of the best wood to keep some of the clones of Tempranillo alive in a small plantation we are doing here at the top of the Viña Pomal estate. So for us, it's very important to be working on a continuous viticulture regenerative, that we call. Maite, how old are the vines for Viña Pomal?
It's around 25.
What is the volume available of Gran Reserva?
For this vintage, 2014, I think we are around 40,000 bottles.
40,000 bottles.
40,000
okay.
bottles.
There is another question. Any new trend of the traditional Rioja wine?
Any new trend?
New trend and traditional? Sounds controversial.
Well, I think there's a trend here into the customers of Rioja to looking for more aging wines. So there's an interesting growing inside the wine lovers just to look for these old vintages, because I think there's a culture now into wine lovers customers to recognize this quality that our previous winemaker made with our wines, no? So I think this is the trend into the Rioja.
I could say also recovering all these traditional varieties. In the past, we were only saying Tempranillo.
But
and now you start to see
the Grenache
back, Graciano back, and even Maturana Tinta. No? So this is also something new. Valeria asked, do you plan to make vegan wines?
Well, vegan wines, it's difficult to say, because generation after generation here, as you well know, the best way to clarify our wines is a natural way, very ancestral, is using by egg. So, and it's the perfect recipe for us to clarify. And I don't know. In other hand, when we work with the youngest, with the whites and the rosé, we are working with vegan additives. So we use vegetal proteins for making the clarification of the whites, rosé, and also for the sparkling. So this youngest wine, yes, we can call it as vegan. But with the reds, it's quite difficult because nowadays we don't find the perfect vegetal clarificant for making this wine.
Okay. They are asking, did you apply any biological method in the vinegar?
Yeah, sure. Because
Pheromones.
yes, because we preserve all the, well, we don't use insecticide, herbicide, and no products on the vineyards. We work with our main vineyards with mechanical works and, well, with compounds that we can use in ecological, like copper or sulfur, no more. And we try to work in this line, in the vineyard. Mm-hmm.
Sergio, one for you. Does coronavirus affect your export situation? Any solutions to deal with it?
I would say at the beginning of the crisis, it impacted more, but very quickly, I think the teams found a way to sort of offset the on-trade impact by moving more towards some off-trade accounts, represented, by the way, by many of you. And we actually found significant success throughout the crisis. So they say crises are a good opportunity to reinvent yourself. And I think we did reinvent ourselves as our international business grew during the pandemic. Our Asian business actually was among the top growing businesses during the pandemic, and it continues to be so. So in a way, we found a good side or a silver lining into the pandemic as we were able to transform our channel strategy and our regional strategy, again, thanks for the most part to the growth of regions like Asia. So in a way, we're very happy about how it happened, and most importantly, how we are rebounding after, which is even stronger right now.
Ivo asked, what's the market share of Bodegas Bilbaínas in global market? I have here a note that I can help in this one, that in Asia, for Rioja share we are 10.7%, and global we are around 2% of the total Rioja sales. Is there any impacts of transportation cost increasing for Spanish wine?
Well, there is inflation coming for everybody in the coming months. We have not seen a lot yet, but we know it is to come. So I will say those impacts will and may come in the future. For the time being, we are offsetting and holding as much as we can to avoid reflecting anything on any pricing strategy, and that will be the case for the next coming months. However, as inflation comes, we are reworking the numbers just like everybody else, and there might be some potential impact in the future, not in the immediate short term though, but yeah, inflation will chase us all in some aspects in the coming months, or months/year or 2 years.
Cool. I think we are nearly on time, 1 minute to 9. So if there is no more questions, Sergio, I don't know
yes,
if you want
I just want to thank the team here, Diego, Maite, but most importantly your teams for making these outstanding wines every day. And again, to extend the invitation to all of you on the other side of the world to visit us whenever you want, but most importantly to thank you for the current business and for the future business you want to do with us. You know you can count on us to be your growth partners, and we will do everything we can to accommodate your needs and provide you with the best growth opportunities. Thanks for staying with us, and see you next time.
Salud.
Cheers.
Cheers.